singing a long time. I ain't tired yet. I've been singing a long time. I ain't tired yet. Oh, Lord, I ain't tired yet. Oh, Lord, I ain't tired yet. I've been shouting a long time. I ain't tired yet. I've been shouting a long time. I ain't tired yet. Oh, Lord, I ain't tired yet. Oh, Lord, I ain't tired yet. I've been praying a long time. I ain't tired yet. I've been praying a long time. I ain't tired yet. Oh, Lord, I ain't tired yet. Oh, Lord, I ain't tired yet. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. As our great MC said, I'm Sharon Cooper-Murray and am known as the Gullah Lady. Before I start to share stories with you, I'd like to tell you a little bit of how a girl born in Florence County in a small rural town called Lake City arrived in Charleston and learned the Gullah language. Now, the person that I learned this language from is also one of the people that told me one of the stories that you're going to hear. Her name was Maweze. Maweze was in her 80s when I met her. She became my friend. She became my mentor, and she helped me to move into a culture that I was unfamiliar with and learn how to live among them. But before I tell you her stories, I have to tell you how we became so close. My husband and I have 3 daughters. The girls were born 3 years apart, so I had a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an infant. And I usually would take little consultant jobs. And I'd work for a short time because when you have 3 small children, you need to be available. So taking a full-time job was almost out of the question. Well, this one job came up that I thought was a wonderful job, and I definitely wanted to take it. But I needed someone to keep Danny. Well, I'd asked around in the neighborhood, and being an outsider somewhat, I was met with quite a bit of resistance. And finally, Maweze heard that that gal from the Pineland, she wants somebody to look after that child. Well, she sent word to me to bring the baby to her. Well, I wasn't exactly thinking about Maweze as keeping the baby, because Maweze, after all, was in her 80s. But when an elder in the community says, bring that child to me, you can't say no. So I packed up that morning going to work. I packed up the baby's bag. I put the cereal, the milk, and all of those things in, and I carried Danny to Maweze's house. Well, she took the baby in and said, go on, scoot on to work, go on. So I did. But that afternoon when I came back to pick Danielle up, I noticed that everything was still in the bag but the milk. So I thought to myself, what is Louise feeding the baby? Because you know, babies have to have a strict diet, because if you feed them the wrong thing, they'll get constipated easily. But of course I couldn't ask her, what did you feed the baby? So I took Danny, and by the time I got to her house, she was washed up, she was ready for bed. She'd done everything. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to have to take her back. And I think, okay, I'm going to put a different type of cereal in there. I'm going to add these other little things that she might get. Well, I did that. And that afternoon when I picked up Danny, everything was still in there but the milk. So since Louise was my husband's aunt, I told him, you need to ask her what she's feeding the baby. Because you know that baby could get constipated. And what are we going to do if the baby is constipated? So he said, well, Sharon, okay, I'll ask him. So the next day, he picked up Danny. He said, okay. When he got home, I said, well, what did she say? What did she say? What's she feeding the baby? He said, well, Sharon, I didn't ask him. Sharon, I can't ask her that. So by Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, I've made the decision. I'm asking her today. I'm not going to chicken out. I'm going to ask her. So we get in to the house, and I sit down, and I'm trying to think of how am I going to ask this 82-year-old woman, because what I'm going to be saying is, I don't think you know how to feed a baby. What are you feeding the baby? So I sat down, and I'm pondering over this, and finally I stood up, and I was going to walk over to her and say, Louise, I put cereal in there every day and I get it back. What are you feeding the baby? But of course that didn't happen. As I'm about to open my mouth, I happened to look at the kitchen door. Now my middle daughter started walking when she was about 8.5 months old. So I looked at the door, and who comes waddling out of the kitchen? And oh, by the way, she was a skinny baby. So this little wiry girl comes trotting out of the kitchen with a chicken drumstick bone in her hand. And she was gnawing over it. Now I thought, oh my goodness, thank you God I didn't ask her, what are you feeding the baby? Because apparently the baby likes that bone. And she hasn't been constipated. And in that moment, something came to me. I realized that I thought, because I was college educated, that I knew a lot more about a woman who had raised 3 or 4 generations of children. I stood in that house, and I was so embarrassed by my own arrogance that I'm going to tell her, when this is just my second one and I'm trying to learn, that I knew more than she did. And that was the beginning of a great relationship with us, because I learned that the wisdom of the elderly is probably the greatest asset that we have today. And she became my friend. I started to tell her how I couldn't understand what the people were saying, and sometimes I sensed that I wasn't talking to a friend, I was actually talking to a father. So over the next 5 or 6 years, she helped me to learn the language, and that was when I started to tell stories. So this story I'd like to tell you is one that Louise helped me to learn. And this one is called Ihak Nibazi. Now I'll tell you the story first in Gullah, and then I'll translate the story into English. I still I'd seen that Hackney Buzzy Wild. That thing gonna sit on the branch, and that thing is gonna have inside it. It's a sink tree back me to say, I don't hungry. Oh, you know me something to stick to me back. I don't hungry. But the buzzard say, shut up, thing. We don't know that, cause a lot of take it away. Everybody hack that thing away. I don't hungry. I don't 3 days. I don't hungry so. And the buzzard would look at him and say, shut up, thing. We don't know that, cause a lot of take it away. That buzzard, that thing gonna say, you can know the thing to sink through me, but I know I can let it. I'm hungry. And the buzzard would say, shut up, thing. We don't know that, cause the Lord take it away. And then when I hack that thing say, where the city bunny? That bunny in the damn room, the groom that way that. The bunny on the ground, he just a bloop, the bloop, the bloop, the bloop. Well, when I hack that, he just spun on the wing and he just 3 o'clock that thing, he had a beat on the bunny. He had a beat on the bunny. Now the bunny just the bloop, the bloop, the bloop. Cause that thing know that I hack. Gonna get him and I'm gonna eat him. So he just bloop, the bloop, the bloop. Man, I'm looking over there, the bunny holding shh. Don't anybody really go. And I hacked that thing gonna fly back on top of the branch and way that. I'm gonna take me so I don't hungry. Must to me back I don't hungry so. The brother say, shut up, thing. We don't know. Cause the Lord take care of we. Oh, but they happen. Yeah, 3 days and you know you tell me what take them to eat body. Oh, sir. The brother say, shut up, thing. We don't know that, cause the Lord take care of we. And then I had said, the hack been in city's bar bad, and his bar bad gonna flip, the flip, the flip, the flip. Yeah, that hack seafood there, wait that. He spun it wing and he straight close that thing been off from another. His bar body, the flip, the flip, the flip, the flip. Oh, and look at the flip, the flip. And just did in front where he said, you see the biggest tree that thing gonna see, so he start be flipping it him trick for the tree and nothing that it is in way that the hat been a bam to the tree, and then he steadfastly doing the tree to the ground. Yeah, the old buzzard, that thing been as fine, and he just step off the branch. And that thing just a good stuff down. I'm gonna look down there at the dead hack. And then I'm gonna look up to the school. And we say, thank you, Lord. Cause there's a wait on the lot. Cause a lot of always take it away. Now, the story is actually called, in English, The Hawk and the Buzzard. And you see, the hawk and the buzzard had become friends. And they'd go hunting sometime together because all of them would eat about anything, whether it was alive or dead. But this day, they hadn't eaten in 3 whole days. So they perched themselves on the branch and they started to talk about their predicament. Well, now the hawk was a complainer. All he did was complain all day, even when things were good. He always complained, but this day they were hungry because they had not eaten in 3 days. So the hawk would say, oh, my stomach hurts so. I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten in 3 days. It feels like my stomach is sinking through my back. Well, now the buzzard would say, shut up, thing. Wait on the Lord, because the Lord always take care of you. But the hawk would say, I'm so hungry, I need something to eat. Oh, if I don't eat, I know I'm gonna die. I'm so hungry. The buzzard would look at him and say, shut up, thing. wait on the Lord, because the Lord will always take care of you. But the hawk would keep complaining about his hunger. And the buzzard would continue to say, shut up, thing. Wait on the Lord, because the Lord will always take care of you. Well, the hawk said, took a deep breath because he saw the rabbit on the ground. Well, now the hawk knew that he could span his wings, and if he just swooped down, he'd be able to get that bunny and he wouldn't be hungry anymore. So he stood on the branch and he spanned the wings and down after the rabbit. Well, now the rabbit is just hopping because he noticed that the hawk is behind him, so he's trying to run. And he kept looking back, and he noticed, and he kept looking back, and he noticed. He know he's gonna get him, and he's gonna kill him. He's gonna eat me. So he kept hopping, but now the hawk has spanned those wings, and he is very close to the bunny, and he does shh, and there's a bunny hole, and the bunny goes in. Well, now the hawk is not only hungry, but he's very tired, because that took a lot to try to run that bunny down. But he flies back up on the branch and sits by the buzzard and starts to complain again. I mean, it just ticked me. I'm so hungry. I ain't eaten 3 days, so my stomach is sinking through my back. And then he saw a sparrow. Well, now he thought the sparrow ain't much, but anything is better than being hungry like I am. So he spanned his wings and once again, lunged after him. Well, now the sparrow is a very tiny bird. And you see, sparrows generally don't fly in a straight line. A sparrow flies in a darting motion. That gives them momentum. But of course, the big hawk is a much larger bird. So he spans his wings, and when he throws his claws out, he has the bead on whatever he is going to eat. Because pretty soon, those claws will grab them up, and that's all it takes for the hawk. The little sparrow, he's fleeting from one side to the next, and he's thinking, there's no way that I can outrun him. I can't outfly him. He's going to get me, but he's darting back and forth, and right in front of him, look, he saw a tree. It was the largest tree he had ever seen in his whole life. He couldn't even see from one side to the next. And an idea popped into his head. If he could just outfly the hawk till he got to the tree, he would live. So instead of darting, he took all of his energies and he flew straight. Well, now the hawk is so happy he did that because, of course, all he's going to do is take those claws and Well, just as the hawk lunges forward, the sparrow ducks to the side. And when the hawk hit the tree, he hit it with such force, it said, BAM! And broke his neck. Now, he didn't just fall down. He started to just kind of trickle down to the ground. Well, now, the buzzard is up on the limb, and he has watched all of this very closely. So what he decides is to just span his wings, and he didn't have to fly. He stepped off the branch and slowly glided to the ground. And there he looked at the hawk. And he said, didn't I tell you to wait on the Lord? Because the Lord will always provide. Well, he looked up in the sky and said, thank you, Lord, for the supper. This other one is the scorpion and the frog. But on the islands, we don't call it the scorpion and the frog. We say, well, meet under. And see that scat and that thing, he gonna sit up on the riverbank and the sun gonna be down. And he just, shh, fairy tale. And the sun gonna be down. And he, shh, fairy tale. And the sun gonna be down. And he, shh, fairy tale. Because I'm gonna wait for one and half come along to give me a road across the river. So the sun gonna be down. And he just, shh, fairy tale. And the sun gonna be down. And he, shh, fairy tale. Because you're gonna wait for one and half come along and wait that. You just see the bunny. The bunny been a bloop, dip bloop, dip bloop. Well, the scattman will say, hey, if 100 gonna be so kind, honey, please give me a road across the river. Because me and us wouldn't tell how to do myself. But the bunny said, and this captain, I want to sing you, and I know I could do it. This captain at church, when I heard yourself, he said, please bring me right across the river, yeah. Me and us wouldn't tell, and all the people over there, please bring me right across the river, yeah. But the bunny said, Scotland, I don't want to see me and I get there. This Scotland, I heard yourself. Please, look at me right across the river. It is winter. If you just let me cross the river. The bunny said, well, Scotland, I don't want to see me and I know I get there. And the bunny holding that thing and gone. But it's coming right back on the riverbank and the sun gonna be down. And it is shh, fairy tale. And the sun gonna be down. And it's shh, fairy tale. And the sun gonna be down. And it's shh, fairy tale. And then I sing again, what do I say? See the flag? And the flag been a ploop. And I say, come back up. And it a ploop. And I say, I come back up. And it a ploop. And I say, I come back up. And they skip and say, if one of them is so kind, please make me right across the river, yeah? Because me, I'm spend tired. I need to do what you said. And then I said, ploop. And this captain, I don't want to sing me, I know it. Yeah, but this captain didn't let yourself. Yes, and please make me right across the river, yeah? All me people over there and me and us from there, please make me right across the river, yeah? But if you go like, and this captain, I don't want to sing me, I know I get there. And this captain gonna hit yourself. And please make me right across the river, yeah? It is winter. Oh, the people over there, please make me right across the river, yeah? Everyone is saying, only boxing. And then he's there for really wide. He did really wide. And he's coming out singing on the box saying, shh. Oh, how did it man? And I said, the rest of them singing for the river because the river, none of them sing, but I do it, but I'm not a good man. And he flagged that sing the really wide as well. Because them know this cat on the back and that thing is tingling in his sugar there. And then he's cutting on the back saying, shh. You know, when we get out of the city, the river, why get up? I can tell how many people there is the rest of them ting for reading them ting, I'll do it. I can tell them all the stink. ain't none way this thing Hannah, because Hannah the good man. But then afraid I get to really water, because I'm not this kind of money back and I think a thing when I get there. And then they say, oh, I love the thing and I help me, I know I get there. And then I tell you out sense out. So you think this is where you get to the bank, all you gotta do is I say bank here and they go, fling him on the bank and that thing you get to kill him and yo. Well, flags that for really water. Because I know you gotta fling him off and you gotta really water. And just when you get to the bank and they go, how is the bank that Scott and Boss sticking on the book here. When he passes that for sitting and them two things tap for sink. He said, if I say, why how did I do this shit thing? And I help on it. How did I do this shit thing? But you know if I get dead, I'm gonna get dead too. And this captain just shh. Got it way to that? In English, the story is called The Scorpion and the Frog. Now you see, the scorpion would sit on the riverbank and the sun would be down and he'd just fan his tail. And the sun would be down and he'd fan that tail. And the sun would be down and he'd fan his tail. Because he was waiting for one of you to come along to give him a ride across the river. So the sun would be down and he'd fan his tail. And the sun would be down and he'd fan his tail. And this day, he looked and saw the bunny. Well, the bunny hopped and he hopped. And he hopped. And the scorpion said, hey, if you please be so kind, would you give me a ride across the river? Because you see, I can't swim. Or I'd do it myself. Well, the bunny said, you're a scorpion. You want to sting me and I'll die. Well, the scorpion moved just a little closer. He said, oh, please. Give me a ride across the river. Because you see, all my family is over there. And I can't swim. I'll do it myself. The bunny looked at him and said, you're a scorpion. You want to sting me and I'll die. Well, the scorpion moved just a little closer. He said, please help me. I can't swim. Please help me. Well, the bunny looked at him and said, and down into the bunny hole and was gone. Well, the scorpion went right back up on the river bank and the sun would be down and he just fan that tail. And the sun would be down and he'd fan that tail. And then he looked at the edge of the river and saw the frog. Well, the frog would go plop under the water and back up, and plop under the water and back up, and plop under the water. And the scorpion said, hey, if you please be so kind, would you give me a ride across the river? Because you see, I can't swim, or I'd do it myself. Well, the frog said, plop under the water and said, you're a scorpion, you want to sting me and I'll die. But the scorpion just got a little closer to the water and said, oh, please, all my family is over there. Please give me a ride across the river. The frog said, boom, under the water, back up and said, you want to sting me and I'll die. And the scorpion stepped to the edge of the water and said, please help me. I can't swim. Please help me. The frog looked at the scorpion and said, okay, get on my back. and he started to swim across the river. When he got about midways, the frog started thinking, what have I done? I've got a scorpion on my back and I know he's gonna sting me and I'm gonna die. But now the scorpion is on his back and he's fanning that tail saying, you know, Mr. Frog, you're a good man. You're the only one that helped me. Oh, you a good man. But not by now. The frog is swimming really slow because he knows the scorpion is going to sting him and he's going to die. But now the scorpion is on his back saying, shh, you know what? When we get to the other side of the river, I'm going to tell all my family what a good man you are. That I asked all the rest of them and none of them would help me. So when we get to the other side, I'm going to tell my family to sting. But ain't none of us going to sting you. But the frog is swimming really slow. Until finally he says, oh God, if you don't help me, he's going to sting me and I'm going to die. And an idea immediately popped to his mind. If he could get almost to the bank and heist his butt up in the air, he could fling the scorpion on the bank and he'd never get the chance to sting him. So the frog started to swim much faster because now he has a plan and he's swimming. Just before he gets to the bank and he throws his butt up in the air, the scorpion said, shh. Now when the poison starts to set in, the frog turns to the scorpion and says, why would you do this? I helped you. Why would you do this? Don't you know that if I die, you're gonna die too? Why would you do this? Well, the scorpion slowly straightened himself out and straightened his tail and turned to the frog and said, that's just the way I am. Now the moral of this story is, never invite trouble along for the ride. Thank you so much.